What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today, episode 552 for Wednesday, June 26, 2024. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. It is Stitch Day. Last week was Rey Mysterio Day, 619. Today's Stitch Day, 626. If you're a Disney fan, if you're a Stitch fan, you get it. If not, whatever. But that is today, and we're going to be answering your questions from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook per usual. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop a question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it here. Jordan B. from YouTube, their question was, what feuds that have never happened that you wish could have happened or would have happened? For me, it would be The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and Demon King Finn Balor, The Undertaker and Umaga, Brock Lesnar and Batista, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, and Kane and Demon King Finn Balor. That's an interesting bunch of feuds. In the 16 years I've been watching wrestling, WWE, whatever, I'm sure there's been many, many feuds that I wish we would have gotten. Not a lot of which are coming to mind right now, but three do come to mind. You mentioned Bray Wyatt a few times, at least once there anyway. This would not have been a great feud for the matches by any means, but simply for the spectacle of the entrances and maybe some of the promos, the spooky kind of, maybe not supernatural necessarily, because that shit was largely not good, but like the smoke and mirrors and whatnot. Bray Wyatt and Karrion Kross. I always thought that would have been a good matchup. Again, not necessarily in the ring, but like a good pairing of promos and, again, not necessarily supernatural, but the smoke and mirrors of like the dueling promos and whatnot, specifically the entrances. I thought that would have been cool. And we almost could have gotten it when Bray Wyatt came back in late 2022, early 2023, obviously got sick. We never got that feud. But we probably would have had they both stayed on SmackDown prior to, or following that point. And I think Karrion even said in an interview not too long ago that they had discussions of having a match at some point. Probably, I think he had mentioned WrestleMania 39. I don't really know if that would have worked out because they had already pegged Bobby against Bray for that WrestleMania before Bray got sick. They were already well on their way to doing that match, and it was never ever teased that Karrion would face Bray Wyatt. But nonetheless, I thought that would have been cool. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, we've obviously seen several times already in Ring of Honor, in WWE. But that was like the biggest match that we did not get from Punk's recent AEW run. Again, it would have been more about the match and not necessarily like the feud itself. But I thought Punk and Bryan running it back one more time would have been awesome. I was hoping for Punk and Joe one more time. We got that. I was hoping for Punk and, Darby Allin. We got that match. Not really a feud, but we got that match. I was hoping for Punk and MJF, as we all were. And we got that feud, and it was awesome. The one major program, Punk and the Elite as well. Punk and Omega, I guess. But Punk and Danielson specifically, I was hoping for from that recent Punk run in AEW, and we didn't get it. The other match I wrote down here, /feud specifically, that I was really hoping we would get during John Cena and this respective guy's time in WWE, but they never really crossed paths. They did one time, and they had a tag team match, and that was it. John Cena and Samoa Joe. We got Cena and Styles, similar to like Punk and, MJF. We got the big feud that we were always hoping for. We got the big Cena-AJ feud, thankfully early on as well. From the summer of 2016 leading into early 2017, we got the feud. All three matches were tremendous. So thankfully they did not fuck us over on that. We got that great feud. And we've gotten a lot of great AJ Styles feuds in WWE. Him and Shinsuke Nakamura, again, they kind of capitalized it when they should have. The feud itself was not great, but the matches were very good, and we got their match at WrestleMania. AJ and The Undertaker, even AJ and Randy Orton. We've gotten all the great AJ Styles dream matches out of this run for him in WWE, including the Cena one. Joe, you can't really say the same about. Now, we got hurt a bunch of times. The booking wasn't always great. It was really an injury thing because Joe got hurt quite a bit during his time in WWE. I think thankfully so far in AEW, obviously he's not working nearly as much from what it seems like, but he hasn't gotten hurt. Fingers crossed. He has not gotten hurt so far in AEW, which is great. So that Cena Joe feud I think would have been great for the promos alone, maybe even the match. And like I said, they did interact one time Even on the mic they did as well. But specifically in that tag team match that I mentioned earlier, it was a tag team match coming out of SummerSlam 2017. I think it was Miz and Joe against Roman Reigns and John Cena. I was hoping it would lead to Cena and Joe coming out of SummerSlam, but they went immediately into Cena and Roman Reigns instead because Cena was wrapping up his run that spring, summer, fall, whatever, and his last match was putting over Roman Reigns on his way out. So they never had time to do Joe and Cena. And then when Cena came back, which he really didn't, because Cena came back for a few matches in 2018, never for an extended run. He did like the Taker thing going into WrestleMania that year. That was interesting, and the match was all of 2 minutes. Joe was hurt at that point. So even if Joe, I mean, they were never going to do Joe and Cena at Mania anyway, I don't think, because they always had their mindset on doing Cena and Taker. But even if they were going to do Cena and Joe at that Mania, Joe got hurt going into Mania. He didn't come back until the night after WrestleMania. So we never really got that match, unfortunately. I feel like that would have been great. And I'm sure there's many, many more I can probably think of if I had the time. But those were the top three. Not necessarily the three biggest feuds we missed out on, but the three at least that came to mind. Emmanuel A. from YouTube asked, how important do you think is it for wrestlers to put over their opponent in promos? Chris Jericho has a story in his first autobiography about an old promoter he used to hate working with, Bulldog Bob Brown, he put in parentheses, and how before a match where Bulldog beat him, Jericho cut a promo burying him for being old and slow. Bulldog scolded him and said that by burying him, Jericho just made a fool out of himself. In his words, per Jericho's book, this is what he wrote here. Yeah, I'm old and everyone knows it, but I want you to think about this. If I beat you, and I will be beating you, then you just got beat by an old man. If you beat me, and you will not be beating me, then you just beat up an old man. That was the quote. He went on to say, Jericho would admit that Bulldog had a point in that moment, and that the moment taught him a big lesson about wrestling promos. Never totally bury your opponent. Tell jokes and insults all you want, but if you don't build up your opponent to a certain extent, then you're just burying yourself. No, I'm well aware of that. First of all, I read the book. I don't necessarily remember that story specifically, but it probably stood out to me at the time. I know about that because a lot of fans have talked about that in recent years. Jericho himself, I'm sure, has brought that up on his podcast, and I've listened to that. So, yeah, no, I completely agree with that mindset. He is completely right on that. Bulldog Bob Brown was not wrong. If you completely decimate your opponent by saying you're a loser, you suck, like again, just saying you suck, or we don't want to get sensitive here by just saying you suck is burying your opponent. Not necessarily. I've seen promos where the person will completely, not often, because I feel like a lot of wrestlers agree also with that mentality, that if you completely bury your opponent, you're not getting anything out of it if you beat them. And if you lose, it just makes you look like a bigger loser. But here is one instance, and I am shocked that he did this. Maybe it was just to humble him, or I still don't know what the story is exactly. And he really wanted to push him over the edge, and in terms of elevating him in the feud, the match, the promo really did not do that. But I don't know why he did this. Last year, and I talked about this before, the John Cena-Austin Theory exchange on Raw. Everything you just said, Emmanuel, about what Jericho said in his book is exactly what I applied to that promo. That promo was just fucking bizarre as it was. Theory was not up to par with Cena on the mic anyway, which is what it is, and Theory can be blamed for that with inexperience or whatever. But Cena literally went out of his way in that promo to fucking bury this kid. And this was the same kid that beat him at Mania. And I'm not saying that it was because of that promo that Theory did not benefit from beating Cena at Mania. There were a lot of factors there. Again, Theory is very good. I like Theory. I don't know if it was a case of being pushed too quickly, too aggressively, too fast. I'm not sure if it was a case of that, because he had been in WWE for a while at that point. It's not like he just signed 6 months earlier. He had been in WWE for a while, NXT, main roster, back to NXT, back in the main roster. He had been on the main roster at that point for like a year and a half. Back in the main roster, that is. So the beating Cena thing wasn't really that big of a deal as far as, oh, it was too quickly. Like, it wasn't really that. The follow-up sucked. They didn't really do anything with Theory after that. And he was over, too. Anyone saying, oh, he wasn't over, he was over. Prior to WrestleMania, when he was United States champion, I was at a bunch of shows that he was at. The guy was over, and he was excelling really well in that role. Again, I'm not saying Cena specifically is responsible for burying Theory, but that promo they had in Boston, I think it was Boston, in early March, right before Mania, the one and only promo exchange they had, and it wasn't really an exchange. Cena just went fucking off on the kid, and basically says, you're overrated, you're just terrible, And he like was basically shooting on him. And I'm thinking, again, if the idea is if Cena wins at Mania, then this kid is just done for. But if this kid is beating Cena at Mania, then you're not really putting him over. And the biggest line out of all that entire promo, and I know, Mr. Marceau, if you're listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about because we discussed it at length at the time and how fucking dumb it was for him to say this. And people didn't really pick up on this as much as they should have. Cena literally said in that promo, and they removed this from the video package come Mania because they knew how dumb and pointless it was. Cena said, basically, if I beat you, you're a loser. If you beat me, you're still a loser. That's what he said. Literally. Again, not specifically, not word for word, but he did say something along those lines. And I remember listening to that at the time thinking, why the fuck would you say that? Because that just means if Cena loses to Theory at Mania, then again, it means nothing from Cena's own mouth. And sure enough, it actually did indeed mean nothing as the aftermath was nearly non-existent. But I still think back on that, like, why the fuck did he say that? Again, maybe just in an effort to elevate the kid, bring him up to his level, motivate him, whatever. I don't know, whatever fuck mind tricks he was trying to do. And Cena's typically a great promo. I just thought that was so dumb. So it goes back to what you were saying, Emmanuel, about Jericho, what he said in his book, and what a lot of people still say today. Do not completely bury your opponent, because in the end, psychology-wise, it just doesn't make any sense. Brandon A. from YouTube, he says, what's up, GSM? Hope everything is going well with you as usual. Thank you, Brandon. You as well. He says, as we are in Forbidden Door season with AEW, and I guess WWE technically as well, actually, with TNA. He didn't write that. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. He said, I am trying to curate a list of matches that would go well for hypothetical WWE versus AEW Forbidden Door. I know it would never happen, but it is fun coming up with matches nonetheless. I'm finding that there are so many good combinations that it would indeed not be enough for even a 2-night card. I don't have the matches ready to give you just now to ask your opinions, but starting next week, I will send you a 1-night card to get your opinions on. I will do this for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we can just pretend that it is something that the two companies did over the course of a month. Hope that piques your interest. Yeah, that would be awesome. Sure, feel free to send it my way. We've gotten asked a lot of questions here on the show about big dream matches and like, what do you think of this card? I don't know if anyone's actually presented me a card. I'm sure someone has. I know I've answered questions like that before, like my biggest WWE versus AEW dream matches, Forbidden Door matches. But if you want to give me a card, even better. That means I don't have to put in the effort to making the card myself. So, and I can be lazy with that sort of stuff. So feel free to send it my way starting next week, and I'll be sure to give you my 2 cents on them. Brandon's second question. What do you do with Seth Rollins at SummerSlam if he loses at Money in the Bank? Also, what do you do with Dragunov if Kaiser is cleared to wrestle and they do the rumored 4-way at SummerSlam with Sammy, Kaiser, Sheamus, and Breakker? So with Rollins, I think Rollins is winning. If you're saying in a hypothetical sense, what do you do with him if he loses? I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. I really don't know. I feel like Rollins and Roman one more time, where Roman's able to beat Rollins because he has never done so one-on-one on pay-per-view would be cool. I feel like we missed the boat on that. We kind of got their, the finishing of that feud at WrestleMania. And even then, I mean, I guess Roman did beat Rollins in that matchup, although it was Cody who got pinned. I guess you can kind of argue that. But I still wanted Roman and Rollins one-on-one one more time, maybe down the road. But if Roman's coming back as a babyface or will be a babyface in the near future, we're probably not going to get that match again anytime soon. So that's probably out of the question. I think it would also be weird. And Roman is a free agent. He wasn't drafted anywhere officially back in the spring a few months ago. So you can't have him go to Raw when he comes back and work with Rollins at SummerSlam. I just don't know why he would do that from a storyline standpoint. If the Bloodline is doing their thing on SmackDown, why wouldn't he go there first to address that, and Solo not being the tribal chief or whatever? So that would be cool. I don't see that happening. You have the Wyatt 6. Rollins has not had a lot of luck in the past of working with anyone named Wyatt. Necessarily just, Bray Wyatt, actually, we're talking about here. That whole feud in late 2019 sucked. But if they're out for revenge, again, him going back after Rollins would make sense, because that was like, they could even kind of shoot a little bit and say that was the feud that really kind of killed the Fiend, that Hell in a Cell match. They could blame Vince McMahon, but you can't get revenge on Vince because he's not here. So if you want to get revenge on Rollins in storyline, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, Rollins and Uncle Howdy or whatever, not exactly an alluring match, like a very exciting match, but you could do that. Breaker and Rollins, you asked, what do you do with Breaker if, whatever you do, the four-way, or you asked what you do with Dragunov. Rollins and Breaker would work, but I feel like Breaker is kind of firmly set in the Intercontinental Championship picture. I don't know why they would give him a title shot in Money in the Bank, not win, and then go on to face Rollins instead. That would just be weird. Maybe he wins the championship, defends against Rollins. Probably not. I don't think Rollins would go from challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship to the Intercontinental Championship the very next month. There's not a whole lot of great options on the Raw side for Rollins right now. So I don't know. That's why I'm pretty convinced he is beating Priest at SummerSlam, or rather at Money in the Bank, even with the new stipulations. I think Judgment Day might intentionally cost Priest the win, because after Priest said, oh, they need me more than I need them, then they might be like, listen, dude, fuck you, and then we don't need you either, and you don't need your World Heavyweight Championship, so we're going to kick you out of the group by having Rollins beat you at Money in the Bank, intentionally. So I could totally see that. Instead of them helping him, they cost him the championship instead. I would be fine with that. It's a lot of interference, but it is a storytelling thing, so I'm okay with it if it plays out properly. But yeah, I do think Rollins is probably winning at Money in the Bank. As far as Breaker goes, or Dragunov rather, you asked. So you asked, what do you do with Kaiser if he's cleared and they do the rumored four-way at SummerSlam? I don't really think it matters if Kaiser is cleared or not. I think if Kaiser, I hope he is, because he's been doing great work lately in the feud with Sheamus. You either do the four-way that they teased already with Sammy, Kaiser, Sheamus, and Breaker, and they were never going to do Sheamus and Kaiser in the four-way at Money in the Bank, because they were always going to do Kaiser, Sheamus, and Drew in that Money in the Bank qualifier on Monday, and probably set up. I don't think they would just announce Sammy and Breaker on Raw for Money in the Bank if they didn't know Kaiser's status. I know they changed the Money in the Bank qualifier for next week, but I feel like that segment with Sammy and Breaker was always written into the show, and they didn't just add that because Kaiser got hurt, let's announce the match tonight. I feel like that was always the plan. But even if Kaiser is hurt, you just do a triple threat instead. Throw Sheamus in there. You could throw a fourth person in there like Dragunov. I don't really know what you do with Dragunov. I would want to see Dragunov in Money in the Bank. I don't think he's qualifying. I thought he might, but then I saw from WrestleVotes that Dragunov was actually not supposed to be in the qualifier next week, which is kind of fucking stupid when you think about it. Because, he was given Gable's spot in the qualifier for this week after Gable was deemed unable to compete, and then they gave it back to Gable. So then why logically would you have a third qualifier and not put Dragunov in it if he was almost going to be on the verge of being in the second qualifier? That just doesn't make sense. So unless in storyline they already had the third qualifier mapped out and Dragunov was the only person not in a qualifier, that would just be stupid. So, I don't know. I don't really know what they do with Dragunov necessarily. There's no shortage of options of people for him to work with on the Raw roster. His thing with Breaker is clearly done, so I don't think working with Breaker is the answer. I'm not sure. Slotting him in the Intercontinental Championship picture would be nice. I'm trying to think of other heels. Like him and Bronson Reed could have a kick-ass feud. Bronson Reed, they just don't know what to do with it at all. They could have him work with Bronson, maybe slide him into the Judgment Day stuff. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Hopefully they could figure it out. I don't really have a clear-cut answer for you. He also said, lastly, just wondering if you will be attending SummerSlam this year. I'm so pumped. It's in my city of Cleveland, Ohio, and I will be going. I just got my tickets about a week ago. I was super on the fence because money is very tight right now, but I thought I'd regret it forever if I didn't go. This will be my first wrestling pay-per-view/BLE ever in my 25 years of being a fan. Wow, that's crazy. So far, I've been to 2 SmackDowns, 2 Dynamites, and an NXT live event as a fan that entire time. I guess it's not that crazy, actually, because if it's not, you're not saying you've never been to a show before, you're just saying you've never been to a pay-per-view before, which is totally normal, especially since I don't think they go there to Cleveland for pay-per-views very often. But anyway, you said, I've been to an NXT live event as a fan that entire time period. Anyway, being a fan of your content over the past 8 years or so, I would love to meet you if possible. Take care. Absolutely, dude. So as far as my status for SummerSlam, I should be going. A lot of this stuff is last minute. I am hoping to go. I am planning on going. But if I don't get the green light to go, then I'm not going. So I should find out soon. Everything should be all set soon. I'm hoping I'll find out for a fact in the next week or two. So when you send in your Forbidden Door WWE versus AEW questions, feel free to ask me again in the next week or two. And I should hopefully have a better, more concrete answer for you as far as whether I'm going or not. I should be. I've been to SummerSlam the last 3 years. In Vegas 3 years ago. I was there in Nashville 2 years ago. and I was there in Detroit last year. I've never been to Cleveland. I would love to go to Cleveland. I am planning on going as of right now. So if so, let me know. Obviously, you said you're going. But we'll work something out, and whether that be, you or anyone really, because there were a couple people that wanted to meet up at Mania. The problem was that my schedule that week was just so fucking tight. Like literally every segment of every day that I was there, I was busy doing something. A lot of it just being work stuff, but hopefully we can work something out and we can definitely meet in person. I'll be at the arena, and I think SmackDown's in the same venue this time. Not the same venue, but like the same area. Because typically it's not. In years past, they did not do SmackDown in the area, which was stupid. But I think now they are. Yeah, and I would love to meet you in person. So let me know, and hopefully we can work that out. Six Fox Puff via YouTube. Their question was, a lot of WWE people claim that SmackDown was never the B show. Do you think that they bit themselves in the foot or shot themselves in the foot? I don't know if they bit themselves in the foot. But he said when people realized that after the titles were unified by Randy Orton in 2013, anyone that held the unified championship never appeared on SmackDown. Once they won the title, they always appeared before they won the unified title, never after. Examples, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton. I would love to know who these head WWE people are that claim that SmackDown was never the B show. I mean, maybe at the time they said that because that was like the company jargon. Oh, SmackDown's the same level as Raw. No, it wasn't. It never was. I mean, during that period anyway. Earlier on, yeah. I mean, when SmackDown first started, Raw and SmackDown were close to being equals. And even during the brand split, they had, SmackDown was a lot of times better than Raw in the early 2000s. When it got to like the late 2000s, SmackDown was the most throwaway show I have ever fucking seen. And this was around the time I got into WWE. So like 08 SmackDown was great. 09, 2010, 2011 SmackDown was not great, but it had some good stuff. And at least they still had some semblance of a brand split. So like we've talked about SmackDown in 09 before. I know Average Grunt was like, oh, it's a great time period. Maybe even Raw as well. But like some of the shit they were doing back then. 09 was good. So, like, 09 had Jericho and Rey Mysterio. They had Edge and Jeff Hardy earlier on in the year. The Hardy Boys feud. They had CM Punk and Jeff Hardy, of course, for the World Heavyweight Championship. Taker kind of becoming a part-time guy, but we had Taker and Punk for the first time as a feud. Batista's heel turn. So, SmackDown 09 wasn't bad. SmackDown 2010 was fucking terrible. Big Show in the main event. Jack Swagger as World Heavyweight Champion. The Taker-Kane stuff I liked, but their matches were largely not good over the World Heavyweight Championship. They were largely very fucking boring. Edge and Kane feuding over Paul Bearer was not great television in retrospect. It was a pretty dull period. And then 2011 had at least Christian and Orton, and that was fucking awesome. And then when you get into 2012, that was when the brand split kind of dissipated for SmackDown, and the show meant nothing. Like, they had some good stuff on SmackDown, like some decent stuff, but if you watched Raw, you basically watched SmackDown. Because a lot of the people were not exclusive to SmackDown, and if they were exclusive to SmackDown, it wasn't very good. Like, a lot of 2012 was dominated by Sheamus versus Alberto Del fucking Rio over the World Heavyweight Championship, which I had completely forgotten about until I was doing research for an article about a week ago. And I remembered, they had Sheamus and Del Rio feud for like 6 fucking months, and I don't think Del Rio beat him once. Like, they were doing that all year on SmackDown. 2013 was ass. 2014, like, it was years on end. It really was not until, like, even 2015 was throwaway. It really wasn't until 2016 that SmackDown was finally, like, good again. Worth watching. That was, like, the SmackDown Renaissance period when the brand split was brought back. I forgot what your question even was. But I'm sorry, you said, was SmackDown, like, people claiming that SmackDown was never really the B show and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're right, though. When people did win the Unified Championship, they never showed up on SmackDown. And if they did, it was once in a while. They never defended the championship on SmackDown. And the championship wasn't really defended on Raw either. But you're right, though. SmackDown was a complete fucking waste. Like, you're talking late 2013, 2014, 2015. Brock was never appearing on SmackDown as the unified champion. We had a unified champion from December of 2013 through the brand split in mid-2016. This is why SmackDown was a complete nothing show. Because you're right, they never appeared on the show. Brock was never on SmackDown around that point. Cena won the belts, what would that have been, 2014? I don't think he was on SmackDown. Orton was very rarely on SmackDown. Daniel Bryan, I mean, he got hurt, but yeah, a lot of that stuff was exclusive to Raw. So you're right. SmackDown was the most, like, even 2009, 2010, when I shit on those time periods, I would definitely rather watch SmackDown during that period than during 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Because it was, I couldn't even tell you what was happening on SmackDown around that point. Other than like Roman beating the League of Nations on Raw, and then the League of Nations on Raw, and then beating them again on SmackDown. Like, they would just extend stuff over from Raw to SmackDown, and Raw wasn't that good, so the extension of Raw from SmackDown also fucking sucked. I never watched it live. If I saw a link for the show go up early, because it was a tape show back then, that was the thing. It was also a tape show. No one gave a shit. I would try to watch it as early as possible, so I didn't have to watch it when it aired, because I didn't give a fuck. Next question from, let's see, at Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine. Also check out his content on YouTube. Real Honesty, John Ritland does great work. His first question was, so WWE has the Wyatt Group committing mass assault and murder last week, and this week they had Bo doing a revealing interview on a VHS tape. Shouldn't they have built to the mass murder moment first? Yeah, like built it up a little bit more. Yeah, I'm fine with what they did, though, because that was such a great debut. And again, we all had questions coming out of it. Is this sustainable? Can you do this every week? The answer is no. I think it was a big bang right out of the gate. And it wasn't as if they just killed the whole roster. There was a bunch of nobodies. So, I mean, you could do another angle like that down the road of them attacking multiple members of the roster, doing it in the ring. You know, they could always do something similar to that down the road. I thought for their first night that was fantastic because they didn't even have to get in the ring. It was just a one-shot, kind of like an extended skit type thing, and it was really well done, brilliantly executed, greatly shot. I loved it. And I thought the follow-up on Monday was great, so you're right. Following up that with a VHS tape seems like ass backwards. And normally, honestly, most of the time I would agree with that. And I was kind of expecting, all right, the follow-up is going to be lame. Like, and I hate to sound negative, but typically with WWE it is. But it wasn't. I thought that Bo Dallas interview on Monday was amazing. I really did, and I said that to Alexis. She loved it too, and she loves anything Bray Wyatt for the most part. But as soon as it was over, I turned to her, I'm like, that was great. Like, that was great television, and everyone else loved it as well. We need more of that, more based in reality type of stuff. And again, they're going to have to get in the ring at some point. But if they're not wrestling in the masks and we know who these people are, that's also pretty cool. So I have no idea where this is going. I'm really not that creative of a person, so I can't even fathom to tell you where this might be going. But I thought the first 2 weeks so far have been very well done. I have very little complaints as far as what they did on Monday or last week. His second question was, do you think we'll get a cash in the night of Money in the Bank, or will they actually wait for both this time? You know, they could. I hope they don't do it that night. We've just seen it so many fucking times with the men and the women. With the men, they've done it twice. Have they done it a third time? I know they did it with Kane in 2010, and they did it with Ambrose in 2016. That was enough. Both of those moments were great. But then they went on to do it in 2018 with Alexa Bliss, 2019 with Bayley, and then again with Liv Morgan in 2022. So they've done it 5 fucking times, and they did not do it last year. I hope they don't do it on the same night this year. They don't need to. They don't have to. I hope they don't. So, will they do it? I don't know. Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe Drew cashes in. Maybe he wins it, cashes in. I don't know. I could see a scenario where maybe Drew wins it and then Punk cost him his cash, and that would just be a waste of the briefcase, but I guess you could do that if you wanted to. I just hope they wait on it and they cash in at separate periods down the road. I appreciated the fact Priest waited as long as he did, because most people cash in within a couple of months. He waited like 8, 9, 10 months, which I thought was refreshing. John's next question, doesn't the build for most of Forbidden Door this year feel mostly flat or even random? Sure, a few of the matches may deliver, but this feels very thrown together. I think it's been decent. I feel like they did a better job this year of building towards some of the matches actually compared to previous years. In previous years, like, they've literally waited until like 2 weeks before to confirm most of the card. Thankfully, most of the card for this year's show, if I'm not mistaken, was either teased, built towards, or even announced weeks ago. Like, coming right out of Double or Nothing. So I appreciate that. It's a show that largely does not matter. The show the first 2 years was great. I think this year's show will also be very good. The build in previous years was not great. I feel like the build this year has not been amazing, but at least, you know, the matches do have potential. I think the build for Ospreay and Swerve has been great. If you're talking like random, like, that's been well done. But for like MJF and Hechicero, who gives a shit? Like, I'm sure the match will be good, but I think that's probably because, from what I understand, Roosh cannot be on that show due to, like, company politics with AAA and CMLL and all that other bullshit. So they would have done Roosh and MJF on that show if he could be there. So instead, they're doing MJF and Hechicero. Who gives a fuck? You know? Mercedes Moné and Stephanie Vaquer, I don't know how you pronounce her last name. That at least has somewhat of a story, because Mercedes beat her in the Strong Championship tournament last year, and she went on to win the championship. Mercedes never held that belt because she got injured in the finals against Willow. She avenged that loss to Willow, and now she wants to beat Stephanie for the belt she never got to win. So that also makes sense. Some of the matches I don't really give too much of a shit about. Let me look up the card real quick, actually. And I can tell you, like, is this random or is this normal? Why did I type in Blackpool Combat Club? Probably because I think Blackpool Combat Club is a fucking match on the show. Forbidden Door. Let's see here. Forbidden Door 2024. So they announced 9 matches. Obviously, Dynamite is tonight. We're having a ladder match. Another fucking ladder match. WWE overdoes them as well. For the TNT title, vacant TNT title. So that makes sense. That's fine. The people in it is a tad random, but, you know, it's probably going to be won by Jack Perry anyway. The Mercedes match I like. The Swerve match I like. Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa is probably the best built match in the entire card. They've been planting the seeds for that storyline for months. Because Mina's been on AEW television for a while on and off, so I actually really like that match. I know you don't like the idea of Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy. We talked about that last week. I'm fine with the match. I'm sure it'll be good. And they're also, again, it does feel thrown together in the sense that they explained it in that Orange Cassidy did not pin, I don't think, Zack Sabre Jr. last year to retain his title. I don't think. Maybe he did. But they interacted in that 4-way. Now they won a one-on-one match. So that makes sense. Random, but okay. John Moxley, Tetsuya Naito. I'm pretty sure it was Naito who he beat for that IWG World Heavyweight Championship. So I don't really give a fuck about the New Japan stuff, but okay. MJF Hechicero, very random. Danielson and Takagi is random, but at least that's an Owen Hart Cup tournament first round match, so that should be great. And then the Learning Tree, God forbid. The Learning Tree versus Samoa Joe Hook and Katsuyori Shibata. I don't give a fuck about that match, but at least it makes sense because they have been feuding for a while now. So, yeah, it's up and down. The build's been better this year. I think it will be a very good show regardless. I wish they would, crack down on the amount of matches they do because they do have so many pay-per-views now. But beyond that, I think it should deliver. Next question from @TheAverageGrunt. The question was, if you could only watch wrestling from one decade for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? He said, you'd always have access to every televised match from every promotion in the world on any device you wish. For example, if you pick the 2000s, and hopefully, by the way, the catalog, if I'm watching every televised match and it's not on fucking Peacock, I would hope it's not on Peacock, and I like Peacock, but the user interface sucks. So give me like a WWE network with all this shit, is what I would say. But anyway, he went on to say, for example, if you pick the 2000s, you'd have every televised/taped match that took place from January 1st, 2000 to December 31st, 2009. Forever. But you can never watch any match that took place before or after, I guess ever again. He said, if you want, you could pick the 2020s and ride it out. I am tempted to say, because before you finished that question you sent in the second half, I was tempted to say the 2022s or the 2020s and say, we don't know what the rest of the decades hold. I don't know if that would count. I don't know what the rest of the 2020s hold, so I don't know if I could say that. I probably should pick that decade or this decade, because so far it's been great, but maybe something else negative happens. And I think with this decade, you would have a lot of content. But you said watch for the rest of forever. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the stuff we've gotten in the past 4 years, first of all, it included COVID for the first year or so. That's one thing. Second thing, a lot of it is recency. Like, I don't really go back and watch a lot of the recent stuff. Sometimes I do, but a lot of the times I don't because, I just saw it recently. I would rather, if I'm going to pick a decade, it would be the 2000s. I feel like that's not a very bold answer, but mostly because I have not gone back and watched a lot of the 2000s stuff. Yes, I have watched every WWE pay-per-view up until, 2017 when I stopped doing them, but I did the retrospective pay-per-view reviews for every show up until that point. But the Raws and SmackDowns, a lot of those I have never seen. So I would rather, if I if wrestling stopped tomorrow and someone asked me how much wrestling, like what decade could I consume for the rest of my life, I probably still wouldn't be able to get through it because I'm always fucking busy. But I guess then again, if there's no wrestling currently, maybe I could be able to get through it. I would watch the 2000s because not only do you have, like, when I got into wrestling, I also, so like, I have the nostalgia part of it with 08, 09, all right, because that's when I started watching, so I can relive that stuff. And some of it's not great, in 09 specifically, but I could rewatch that stuff. But, like, you have the Ruthless Aggression era, which I'm very fond towards. I wasn't watching at that point, but a lot of the matches, feud, storylines were very good. You have 02 to 05, that whole period right there. 05 to 07, some good underrated stuff in there. You have the end of the Attitude Era. I could go back and watch the tail end of WCW. Why anyone would want to, I don't know, but I could study up on that. I could watch the tail end of ECW. I could watch the birth of TNA and some of their peak content from those early years. I could go back and watch, New Japan, I guess, but I'm thinking like Ring of Honor, the birth of Ring of Honor and some of their great content. So I feel like the answer has got to be the 2000s. To me, anyway, it's got to be the 2000s. And I guess if you're a big Attitude Era mark and you grew up in the 90s, you're a 90s kid. I was born in 95. I joke that I'm a 90s kid, but like I don't watch, I have very few, if any, memories from before 2000. I have very little knowledge of anything I was doing before 2000, before I was in kindergarten. So I can't really say, it's hard for me to say the 90s, that I'm a 90s kid, So I would say the 2000s. But if you grew up in the 90s or the 80s or whatever, you might have you probably have a different answer than I do. At Iwagoon91, last couple of questions here from them. He says, hoping not too late. You weren't. Thank you for sending your question. He said, did you know that Bryan Danielson and Shingo, you wrote Tamari? I think you mean Takagi, I would think, because they're having a match this Sunday. But you said, did you know that they had a fantastic match in 2010 during Danielson's brief post-WWE run? I did not know that, because Danielson was not gone from WWE for very long. But the funny thing about that time where he was fired in June of 2010, 14 years ago this month, he was brought back quickly for SummerSlam. He was probably rehired even before that. Obviously, he talked about it in his book. He was rehired even prior to that point, and then they just brought him back on TV in August. But they had this whole thing for Danielson, where they allowed him to finish out his dates. Even during the point when he returned to WWE, he was still finishing out his scheduled independent dates and whatnot after he returned to WWE. And that included, even into October, one of his final indie dates. It might have been the final indie date. He worked Northeast Wrestling in October 2010. Now, mind you, again, he returned at SummerSlam in August. He was still working indie dates through October. So they already announced him for this show. They allowed him to work the show. He worked Shelton Benjamin, who I think was in Ring of Honor at the time, and they had a great fucking match. And this was at a point where Danielson was the WWE United States Champion. Now, he didn't come out with the belt, but he did have the belt with him when I met him on that show, which is fucking crazy. So, and he was really nice, as you would expect. It was just surreal. I became a Bryan Danielson fan, right around then. I didn't really love his work. Not that I didn't love his work, but wasn't really aware of him pre-WWE. Didn't care for him much in NXT. But around the time that he won the United States Championship and I met him, I became a Bryan Danielson fan. He was awesome. So that has very little to do with your actual question, but I did not know they had a match back in 2010. Hopefully they mentioned that in a video package or something before the match on Sunday. Your second question was, what do you think of Cody Rhodes' title run? I think it's been good. It's been very good. I mean, the guy's incredibly over. He's the face of the franchise. The two AJ Styles matches were great. I think the Logan Paul match was great as well. He's had some very good matches. He's got, no one direction. I guess not mentioning the band here, not to mention the band, but as far as what are we building towards? Is it Solo at SummerSlam? If so, no thanks. I don't think he's going to lose the belt to Solo, but still, I wouldn't even do that match. Is it The Rock? I think it is The Rock, but is that WrestleMania? Is Cody going to be champion for the rest of the year? He doesn't really have that milestone match to look forward to. I mean, I guess he might. I don't know. It depends when The Rock's returning. But we're kind of stuck in a transitional period in the meantime of him having to... They got to build up other challengers and opponents for Cody to face. That's kind of the problem. The roster, they have a lot of great people. They have to build up more people to feel like legitimate threats to the WWE Championship. But beyond that, Mike Work's been great. Matches have been great, incredibly over. Cody's the guy. I've enjoyed it. So if you're going to say, oh, it's underwhelming, that's totally fine. You're obviously entitled to your opinion. But, some things can just be good. Some things don't have to be entirely amazing, and some things don't have to be entirely awful. Like, I don't even know, honestly, if there's many title runs in the past 15, 20 years, if ever, honestly, that people would unanimously agree that was amazing. Aside from maybe Gunther's Intercontinental title run, beyond that, I feel like almost every other title run, people will have something negative to say. And there's always going to be drawbacks to anything, obviously. But I'm just saying, I feel like if it's not amazing, then people just automatically assume it's been lame, underwhelming, or shit. And some title runs are shit, but Cody Runn's run has not been shit, at least in my opinion. And his last question, your thoughts on The Shield. The Shield has got to be my favorite faction of all time. I mean, I grew up, I started watching in 2008, so it wasn't as if The Shield got me into WWE or whatever. But you got to remember what I was saying earlier. For those that were watching back then, and I'm sure that's most of you, WWE TV was fucking awful. Like, Punk was doing great stuff. There was some diamonds in the rough, but largely it was just throwaway television. Like, it would be tough to go back and rewatch all of those Raws. And I've already seen all of those Raws, so I don't really have to go back and rewatch them and review them. I've reviewed a lot of them, pretty much all of them from that period on my own website, WrestleRant.com, cheap plug. But the Shield really injected new life. They were 3 new stars. All were great in their own way. They worked off each other really, really well, and they were booked great. It was magic. You see that Vince McMahon meme, like, he was special. Like, the Shield was special. Like, the debut, even down to the debut, dude, it was cool. And I thought they gave off Nexus NWO vibes. No, they were like their own thing. And they even said that soon into their first interview. Like, we're not the NWO. We're not the Nexus. We are the Shield. The theme was cool. The entrance was sick. They came off like badasses. They went undefeated for a long time. They held championships for a long time. They were really the glue that held WWE together from late 2012 to early 2014. And then after they disbanded, I mean, you had the individual Shield superstars to look forward to on their own, but the product, even after they broke up, was not the same. Like, the product wasn't great anyway, but, like, the Shield, at least, you could always count on those 6-mans, and they were amazing matches, and they had, the babyface stuff we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Could have lasted longer, but, man, those just, that time period, though, was just magical. With them on top, it was phenomenal. So, the Shield is, I mean, I know Rollins said on Raw, I think this week, maybe last week, but I think it was this week. I think it was last week. That, he's a part of the greatest group of all time, the Shield. And honestly, they're in that conversation. They have to be. I mean, they created 3 new top-tier company-carrying stars in Rollins, Roman, and Moxley/Ambrose. And all 3 have been, I mean, how many world titles do they have between them now? I don't even know. It's got to be over a dozen, at least. That's a lot of world championships. 3 great stars. They nailed it with all 3 guys. They don't create a lot of stars, WWE, even today, but they created 3 generational talents. I mean, they were already generational talents, but it was up to WWE to make them that successful, and they did. All 3 of them panned out extraordinarily well. And that's going to do it, guys, for today's edition of #AskGSM, episode 552 for June 26, 2024, here on Stitch Day. Thank you guys, as always, for sending in the questions. I appreciate it. If you want to send in a question, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant, or at WrestleRant on Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM, rather. Be sure to find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.